For a long time now, it's been standard practice to see games launch in early access and then progressively, hopefully, they morph into a complete and highly polished product. But of course, there's always that risk that it won't happen. And I'm increasingly seeing games that fully launch in a condition that would struggle to justify them being even beta ready. I won't mention any names today, but in 2020 there have been many, too many to mention. Well, perhaps we as gamers should stop accepting these unfinished products being sold to us at full price, because now we have multiple hardware devices releasing in beta state 2, and that's something that I've never seen before. Now, I will immediately leap to the defense of Honeycomb Aeronautical and this outstanding Bravo Throttle Quadrant, because they have not yet launched, and as such, the device that I have here is an early access preview device sent to me purely for review purposes. I've had it since October, and despite a few patches and updates that have been received, we still have no working lights on this device. Now, I have read that it's update number 7 which will bring these much desired features, but despite emailing my contact at Honeycomb multiple times in the last couple of months, they have not only not answered my question, they have only replied to me once in a completely different conversation. Now, that's a little bit concerning from a customer service perspective, and for me as a reviewer, it's very frustrating, because how can I accurately do my job without this information for you? Now, Honeycomb sent me this device to review it, and I am immeasurably grateful to them for doing that. And I've watched many other YouTubers already releasing their final reviews for a device that is only 75% working, which seems a little disingenuous at best. But the official launch date is nearly here, and I have delayed and delayed and delayed. It looks like update number 7 isn't going to be with us before the full release, so I'm being forced to make this review earlier than I would really like to do it. Thankfully though, it is mostly good news. Hello and welcome, I'm SimUK, and it is my goal to provide to you the most honest, fact-based critical reviews on YouTube. If you find this review helpful, then please hit that like button, subscribe, and help to support the channel by donating via the links below. Thank you so much, and enjoy the review. Okay, so first of all, let me just apologise for my voice today. I have been suffering with a cold flu for the last week and a half, and I'm just getting over the end of it now, but, YouTube, like any other job, has deadlines and things need to be done, so I apologise if I sound a bit funny today. What do you get for your £230 or sometimes £300, depending on where you shop, and people are taking advantage of the limited number of devices available, when you buy the Honeycomb Bravo Throttle Quadrant? Well, it's a thing of passion, guys. It's designed and built by passionate flight sim fans for passionate flight sim fans, and it really shows in all of the smaller details. And now that it will be included as an Xbox compatible device, this is by far the hottest device in town. If you haven't heard that, all of the Honeycomb devices are going to be Xbox compatible. That alone is incredible, and it's been a long time coming. They finally filled that void that people have been struggling with, and I am so excited for you if you're an Xbox player, because wow, you'll have had nothing like this, nothing even close to this in the history of Xbox. So, I mean, if you're an Xbox player, just get your money ready and go buy this, because there is nothing out there that's going to be better than this. Now, the Honeycomb Bravo Throttle Quadrant is without doubt the most customizable and versatile hardware add-on for flight simulation that I personally have ever seen. And it has single-handedly enhanced my immersion levels more than my entire SciTech rig ever did. And that is quite an accomplishment for a device that is only 75% working and has no lights whatsoever. The fact that you get both full GA and full commercial throttle quadrant attachments that you can affix in a multitude of different ways on your 6 axes, which also have 3 electronic button connections, allowing toga buttons to be included, and potentially more in the future, gives you, the PIC, an incredible amount of customization, and it requires very little effort at all to switch from one configuration to another. No screwdrivers or fiddly connections are needed to switch from a C152 to an A320. It takes less than a minute, and that is very impressive. Not forgetting, of course, that Honeycomb provides you with the exquisite companion storage boxes to keep those attachments safe when they're not in use. Now that, my friends, is not only passion, but high quality. And the level of quality permeates further into the mechanics of the Quadrant 2. The levers feel solid and smooth, and they are so unbelievably precise. If there's one thing that has really stood out to me, is just how precise I can be with these levers. The tensioning knob that's on the right hand side makes it easy to adjust resistance on the throttle levers too, and although I personally would have liked to see a little more resistance, it does feel absolutely wonderful when you're using it. Now, to be honest with you, I'm more of a GA and prop man. I'm not really that excited by jets, and I can't really tell you exactly why that is. So the majority of my flying experience has been with GA. And I also cannot talk about the lighting on this device, or the info panel display either, because none of that works. And I'm incredibly eager to see it working, especially in conjunction with a flight sim of my choosing. I'm talking about X-Plane 11 and Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 predominantly, but I'm also interested to get it working in games like DCS and IL-2 Sturmovik, and why not consider this for games like Elite Dangerous as well? I mean, there's nothing stopping you from removing the lever handles and just utilising the buttons and the info panel itself. It's a very, very versatile system. The simple fact that the USB cable at the back is a detachable USB-C cable should not be overlooked either, because if the cable gets damaged for any reason, it's a couple of pounds to replace it, and that's exactly how it should be. And the desk mount that you get with this system, well, they have designed a thing of beauty there. I never thought it possible that I could be moved emotionally by a desk mount, but here it is, and it's simply faultless. Oh, not only is it faultless and perfectly designed, it's included as part of the device price. You don't have to pay extra for it, it comes with it. So the gear lever that's based on the left hand side is basic but functional, and to be honest with you, without the lights working around it, it's a bit of a moot point. It goes up, it goes down, it works. The flaps lever on the right hand side is nice as well. It's quite large and it feels good and positive response when you're using it. And the autopilot section at the top, those buttons there also have a nice soft touch button. It's clear and it's responsive, and the fact that you can mount your pre-existing Cytec or now Logitech panels directly to the Bravo as well is a massive positive, because I've also got that digital display readout and I can use either of the autopilot controls, and it just works very, very well. It's very smooth, it's very, very responsive. The dial on the Bravo Throttle Quadrant is actually more responsive than the Cytec panel one, but one thing it doesn't have is a dual dial. I would have liked to have seen that, but that doesn't exist on the Logitech either, so I guess I can work with it how it is. And as a little extra positive, when you mount the Logitech panel on top of the Bravo, it's absolutely rock solid. Unlike it was in my Cytec Cessna yoke, it used to rock and move about as I used it, but on this device, it is absolutely solid. It doesn't move at all, and that is a really nice addition. So it's the little attention to detail that really makes this stand out for me, and it's things like when you've got maybe one of the throttle axes is disconnected, you're not using it. Personally, I prefer to position them at maximum rather than at the bottom, because otherwise they catch my knuckles a bit too often. But you've also got these little rubber covers that you can put over them, reducing the dust impact if you're not using them for a long time. But I do not do promotional videos. I make reviews. So I need to tell you about the issues, the concerns and the potential drawbacks that you should be considering if you're going to buy a Bravo Throttle Quadrant. Although I am incredibly impressed with this device, there are a few areas that need to be discussed. The first thing is the size. The size of this thing at maximum extension is about 28 centimeters wide and just over 40 centimeters deep. Now, if you buy the Airbus Edition handles, which are another £75, when they're at idle, it might even be deeper than 40 centimeters. We might be looking at something like 45 centimeters, potentially. I don't know that for sure because I don't have the dimensions for the Airbus throttle attachments. But yes, it's pretty large, admittedly. It has the same arse end as the Honeycomb yoke does. Now, at first glance, it doesn't seem like that's necessary, and potentially it really isn't. But it is a little bit more than just a cosmetic feature. It's not because they want them to look the same. It's basically because it matches the desk bracket. And as you know how much I love that desk bracket, there's not really much I can say against it. It doesn't need to be that big, but that bracket is so good, I can totally understand why they've designed it around that bracket. It makes perfect sense to me, and I can forgive the depth of this device because of that reason. When this is mounted to my desk, I am 1,000,000% certain it will not move or budge or twitch or have any issues at all. So, it's like a small trade for a very positive thing. Despite its size though, this weighs very little, but it doesn't feel cheap in any way. It feels robust, and it should last a reasonable length of time, maybe even a whole lifetime. But that does also raise a slightly valid concern. My Cytec setup was a collection of hardware devices bought separately and connected together. Now, if had any one of them failed, then it would have been a single replacement. If something fails within the Honeycomb Bravo Throttle Quadrant, and I'm not suggesting that that's likely to happen anytime soon, but it might mean replacing the entire device, which would obviously be more expensive. Now, the rocker switches on the Bravo Throttle are the same as they are on the Alpha yoke, and if you haven't watched my review on that, then I can tell you that it was a mild point of concern for me. They just don't feel all that robust. Now, they work fine, and I didn't really have any issues with them at all, but they feel a tad loose mechanically, and I think over time you may get some issues there, potentially. There's nothing that you need to be concerned about in the short term, but in the long term, that might be an area for concern. Only time will tell. It's a prediction, it's not a guaranteed failure point. What is a little more frustrating though, is that in Microsoft Flight Simulator at least, they are being read as 2 buttons rather than a rocker switch. So when you're trying to set up one of those buttons in Microsoft Flight Simulator, you have to press it in and release it, otherwise it won't actually record that as an input. So imagine if you press a button in but you don't let go. That's kind of what's happening in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Now, it's not a major issue once you've figured out that that's what it's doing, and in all honesty, I don't know where to lay the blame for this. Is it a firmware issue, a driver issue, a hardware issue, or even a software related issue with Microsoft Flight Simulator? And I think potentially that's where it is. Now, my Cytec rig is pretty extensive, but I never got to try out the backlit information panel from Cytec, or the BIP. Now, this Honeycomb has one built in, and although it doesn't work yet, I already question how well positioned it's going to be, especially when mounted up high on your desk. In my humble opinion, the switches here and the BIP should have been swapped around. Until I see it in action, I cannot be 100% sure, but I suspect that that will be my eventual conclusion. If the Bravo Quadrant had a speaker built into it, then that would simply resolve that issue because your attention would be automatically drawn towards it. But as far as I know, that isn't the case. But you never know. There may be a little speaker in there, and when the old BIP starts flashing, you'll get an audible alert as well. That would be incredible if they did that. And if they haven't done that, then I would love to see somebody either add that to their device, or maybe even Honeycomb themselves could add that to future devices. Now, I will loosely mention the soft poly rubber coating, which may degrade over time, but for most people this is going to be something of a little concern. And there is an issue with Microsoft Flight Simulator as well when you have dual engine configuration set up and you're flying in a single engine plane, because Throttle 2 interferes with Throttle 1. Now, putting the unused Throttle 2 into maximum position seems to stop this problem, but in my opinion, this is a Microsoft Flight Simulator issue and not related to this device. Other than these elements, there really is little to be concerned about, and I'm really scraping the barrel looking for issues with this device so that it's not all positive, but honestly, it's a very good device. Okay, sure, we still don't have working lights, and the integration with both X-Plane 11 and Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 is very much a work in progress. But Honeycomb have had a very positive and a pretty long established working relationship with both Microsoft and X-Plane, so I do feel kind of confident that it's just going to be a matter of time. But there is the very real likelihood that at launch at least, some of these things, or maybe all of these things, might still be unavailable or not working as intended. That being said, even if none of the extra stuff works, you are likely to have a wonderful flight sim experience with the Bravo configuration in the state it's in right now. It's only going to get better, in my opinion. Quite honestly, this is the best bang for buck by a country mile. Definitely worth buying. My name is SimUK. I hope you've found this review helpful. If you have, please give us a like, leave some comments in the comment section. It really helps us out as a channel, and without your input and influence, we basically cannot reach enough people to make this whole project worthwhile. Anything you want to know that I haven't mentioned, please let me know in the comments. I'll do my best to answer you. Thank you so much for watching. Do take care of yourselves. Until next time, goodbye.